Hi there, this is Steve Spurrier. You can join University of Florida Hall of Famer Shane Matthews and also the two-time SEC Player of the Year every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, opinions, and some of the biggest names in sports. You can find him on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or you can watch him live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter.
Good morning, folks, and you're looking live at PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Got a great show lined up for you. We're going to kick it off here in just a second with our college football analyst, Brent Beaird, on the Titan Mar hotline, and then we're going to have Katie Turner, Assistant Athletic Director of Football Recruiting Strategy over at the University of Florida. So get your questions ready. The U.S. British Open, Brian Harman, the Georgia Bulldog, is 4 under through 14, leading at -8. Let's go ahead and head to the Titan Mar hotline, and we're joined by our college football analyst who just woke up on a long trip back from Nashville, Tennessee. Good morning, Brent Beaird. How you doing, my man?
Well, I'm doing fine. It's nice to be with you. We had a great time at SEC Media Days, as we normally do. Got a little bit of insight into these teams, but glad to be back. And it was significantly cooler up in Nashville. At least the humidity was about half of what it is today.
Yeah. Did you, being the first time it's ever been in Nashville, how did you like it there?
There was an incredible amount of construction going on, but it's what we'd heard about. It's a vibrant city, to say the least. Listen, the thing that amazed me about Nashville is, and I'll make this brief, is how clean the streets are. I mean, you don't see any trash on the streets. I mean, it's just a lot of cities could learn from them. What I understand is that they've got street sweepers that come out at night and like after midnight, and they sweep the streets. So that's a big deal for their tourism. So you can enjoy about anything you want to in Nashville, and obviously the sports there are just unbelievable too.
Yeah, it's a great city. All right, let's start with Greg Sankey, his State of the Union address. Anything jump out at you?
Well, the first thing he mentioned was that next year we will be in Dallas. I think we all knew that. That's July 15th through 18th. What is interesting is the Major League Baseball All-Star Game will be played that same week in Arlington. That's about half an hour away. So I don't know how the two are going to intersect, but that will be something to look for. Sankey basically said that the league right now, he was asked about expansion. They are expanding next year with 2 teams, Texas and Oklahoma. They're excited about that. But they are going to be comfortable, look at their options. So he made no great information about expanding any further. Although I think that's coming, it's just a matter of time. I think the big thing for Sankey would be, and we'll get into this on another day, but he really wants Congress to come up with answers for NIL. I'm not sure that's a route to go. Frankly, I think this is going to come back at some point to the states and to maybe the individual conferences. So, but he's still stuck on getting Congress to do something. I'm not saying that wouldn't hurt, but at the same time, that's a direction that he wants to go. And the last thing on Sankey is when he was asked, will the SEC championship game move to Nashville because they're building basically I don't know if it's a dome stadium, but it's a stadium that will be mostly covered. And he said, no, it's going to stay in Atlanta, and they put all the energy into Atlanta. So don't look for any changes in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, I think they're going to get to where it's firm. Championship game for football is in Atlanta. Basketball is going to be firm in Nashville, and
Yes.
baseball will stick in Hoover. So we'll see.
Yep.
You know, anything can change with OU and Texas coming in. All right, let's go around the league. Alabama. Anything that Nick Saban said or any of their players, anything stick out?
Saban really likes the coordinators and Tommy Rees from Notre Dame and also Kevin Steele. I mean, he was complimentary, obviously, of Pete Golding, who went to Ole Miss. But he said that they try to use the portal like you would free agency in the NFL. Most of their class, and it is built on high school players, and you add some guys from the portal. They do have some international players. They've got one from Germany, which I think is interesting. They got a punter from Australia, which I think they've got a little factory in Australia for punters sometimes. The Saban didn't bite on the quarterbacks. He just doesn't know at this point who the quarterback's going to be. A lot of people are taking guesses, but we'll know a lot more after that second scrimmage in August.
Yes, we will. Arkansas. I didn't realize this, Brent, but you know, KJ Jefferson's had a really good career. The dadgum guy has 2 more years of eligibility left.
Because
he's been there forever. He's been playing forever, it seems like.
Yes, and because of COVID, there are a lot of guys in the league that actually have not 1 but 2 more years left. And KJ Jefferson is one of those, not saying that he will, but he does have that opportunity. Pittman said, Sam Pittman, the coach, that they, after the Kansas game, that changed a lot for the program. Be able to win the Liberty Bowl with 9 starters was important. Rocket Sanders, who is arguably the best running back in the SEC, has put on 10 pounds, so he's 237.
237.
And can run.
Wow.
Yeah. How about that, Shane? He can really run. Frankly, LSU defensive end Landon Jackson transferred to Arkansas. He's going to get this now. Pittman said he's going from 236 to 280, and it's still running over 20 miles an hour.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy how fast these big dudes can move these days. The Auburn Tigers, Hugh Freeze, back in SEC media days. How did he handle himself?
He did fine. He was a bit more humble than he was when he was at Ole Miss, but life does that to you. No definitive answers on Jarquez Hunter, the running back who's been suspended, or at least we think he has. But I mean, look, he'll play. It's just a matter of time for them to work the details out. He really was complimentary of Brian Batty, who comes in from USF, South Florida, that will have an increased role. He likes Peyton Thorne from Michigan State, along with Robbie Ashford and Holden Grenier. Not real sure how that's going to be. He's not going to call plays. I thought that was interesting. Philip Montgomery is going to call plays. And also Kent Austin, who I'm curious if you remember and you know.
Oh, yeah. Kent Austin was the quarterback at Ole Miss when I was a young fellow growing up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Kent Austin is one of the assistants for the offense, so he and Montgomery are going to be doing that. Now, this is kind of a theme with this year. Several coaches who have been calling plays, either offensively or defensively, are no longer doing so. And Freeze is one of those. We'll see where that goes at this point. So, and by the way, the last time Freeze was at Media Days was 2017. Only 3 of the SEC's current 14 coaches were in the same job.
Wow.
Between then and now. How about that?
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm anxious to see, because I'm a big proponent. If you get jobs because of how you called plays, why the hell would you give them up?
I agree.
So we'll see how that goes. I mean, those guys maybe have the OC title, but I think Hugh Freeze would be calling a lot of plays. All right, the Florida Gators. Brent, I didn't get to watch a lot of media days. I saw clips of Billy, obviously. The dude is so damn impressive when he speaks. Just give me your thoughts of what Billy Napier had to say.
Well, he does well in holding the attention of the audience. He was asked about giving up play calling, speaking of. He said it's a fair question, but it's work, so he's going to continue to do it. I thought this was interesting. He said that Florida had 93% of their team on campus in January, and has also said that they've added 10,000 snaps and 123 starts through the transfer portal to the and this was something that was brought out in 2023. 66% of the signing class was from the state of Florida. In 2024, 33% of it is from the state of Florida. That will change and kind of balance out as it goes along. Napier likes Graham Mertz. He also likes Jack Miller, so he was pretty non-committal on who's the starter going to be. And he admitted, and I appreciated this from him, what a transition it was for he and the staff to deal with the transfer portal and NIL. And year two has been much smoother. Ricky Pearsall is also going to return punts, so that kind of came out too. So that is kind of a quick summation of what was said from the Florida group.
Yeah, Andy's question on Facebook Live brought to you by Melon Law. He says, were you surprised that Billy mentioned Max Brown when answering the QB question on Wednesday? Is there a chance he could be the number 2 guy? He's asking both of us. Yeah, maybe. I still think Jack Miller will be the backup.
Yeah, I agree. But the reality is, in fall camp, anything's possible. So nothing in concrete with that yet at all.
Yeah. Georgia Bulldogs, obviously the AGC issue. What did you think about Kirby and the things he said?
Real quick with the AJC, they made corrections. They did not do a retraction. They also fired the writer who did the story, so that certainly got everybody's attention. As far as Georgia on the field, Smoke Bowie, and a transfer from Texas A&M, is no longer a part of the program. Kirby did us a favor by updating the injuries. He said that Branson Robinson and Small Monday, Robinson's running back, Monday's a linebacker, aren't full go yet for practice 1, but they're getting there. Kendall Milton at running back is going to do something about hamstring injuries. I'd be curious of your take on that one day and how you kind of get around that. But that's a problem with Milton. He is full go, and he'll be practicing. Michael Williams had a toe injury. He's ready to go. And linebackers, Jalen Walker, Marvin Jones, Dan Jackson are all 100%. Did not name a starting quarterback. Mentioned Carson Beck, obviously, but nothing's been said about him being the starter. We do think he's going to be the starter, but again, you get into camp, and certainly anything can happen.
Ruzoga State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Speaking with Brent Beaird, our college football analyst, on the Titan More Hotline. Second portion of today's program, we have Katie Turner from Florida Gator football talking recruiting. Stoops, the winningest coach for the Kentucky Wildcats. I like Mark Stoops a lot. I'm still not buying into the Kentucky love at this time of the year. Every year, it seems. Anything come out of Lexington?
Yeah, he really loves Devin Leary, who came over from NC State. Leary, if he's healthy, is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He's really good, comes from New Jersey, fits the culture, according to Stoops. The guy that really may make a difference for them is Ray Davis, who is at Vanderbilt. He transferred to Kentucky. Remember, last year ran for 130 yards against Kentucky. So I guess if you can't beat them, join them. And that's what they did. So look out for Ray Davis this year. The wide receivers, top 5 pass catchers come back, led by Dane Key and Berrien Brown. Berrien Brown is really good. And he loves his staff. Liam Cohen has come over. Defensively, likes J.J. Weaver, who is a linebacker. Weaver has gained 25 pounds, so he is bulked up. I thought this was interesting. They hired Jay Boulware for special teams. Special teams last year for them was a nightmare, so they decided they wanted to fix it, so they actually made a hire for that. And as Shane said, the usual feel-good Kentucky vibe was in full effect in Nashville.
Yeah, it is. They do real well the week of the SEC championship game. They get a lot of love. The LSU Tigers, highly ranked. Well, most people are picking them to win the West. However, they do have to play in Tuscaloosa. But I'm looking at their schedule here, Brent. It's interesting how it's laid out this year.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. And the thing to keep in mind for them, they're 5 of their last 6 games are in Baton Rouge. 5 of their last 6. Think about that a minute. The only road game in the second half of the year is in Alabama. Now, obviously, they've got the huge game against Florida State. But, man, if you got 5 of their last 6 at home, that is huge. John Emery, the running back, is in the process of being cleared. Mason Smith on the defensive line is back. That is humongous. He and Harold Perkins are 2 of the better quarterbacks in the league. Loves Jaden Daniels. Also loves Garrett Nussmeier. Listen, Garrett Nussmeier, as you know, is a good quarterback. Probably could start for some teams. And I'll say this about Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly at the podium is some of the media were talking about this, maybe second only to Saban in terms of what you would call presence and talking to a group, incredibly professional. I mean, you can really see why Brian Kelly has done what he's done at Notre Dame and at other schools. So a lot of optimism in Baton Rouge right now.
Yeah, Brian Kelly, yeah, he does have that presence. Every time he gets up there in a coat and tie, he looks like a preacher or an insurance salesman to me.
He does, really does.
The Mississippi State Bulldogs, how did Zach Arnett handle his first time as a head coach to media days?
I thought he did fine, frankly. I talked about Will Rogers coming back, Woody Marks at running back, Jaden Crumney on defense. They've got, he said, and people need to remember this, last year we won 9 football games, the 4th time in the last 9 years, 13 consecutive bowl games, 5 first-round picks. Matt Brock, their linebackers coach last year, is the defensive coordinator. They've got a couple of leading tacklers in the SEC coming back. Jet Johnson and Nathaniel Watson both had over 100 tackles last year too. Marcus Banks comes over. He's an Alabama transfer, so they're excited about getting him involved. And again, as Shane and I have talked about the last several months, they are not really going with the air raid. They are going with more downfield passing. Kevin Barbay is the new offensive coordinator. Will Rogers, get this now, needs 2,000 yards, 2,500 yards, be specific, to break Aaron Murray's career SEC passing mark from, and I say this to the great, and I mean that, Shane Matthews. And Shane, you understand this mark better than anybody. Boy, that says something about Rogers to be able to get close to that mark, doesn't it?
Well, what's crazy, he's got another year. He could come back.
Yeah,
I don't think he's
yeah.
saying it was last year. Yeah, he's put up some great numbers for sure. Ole Miss Rebels, you know, Lane is being Lane. Some people love him, some people hate him. What can you tell me about the Ole Miss Rebels and Lane Kiffin?
Well, he was great, as he normally is, amusing to say the least. 40 new scholarship players, 40, Shane.
And then
Bringing in,
he's bitching and complaining about the transfer portal, isn't he?
he is, absolutely. And he's got a great situation at quarterback. Now, Jackson Dart's going to start. I've been told that by Mississippi beat writers. Spencer Sanders, who has the most experience coming over from Oklahoma State, is healthy. He's 100%. And then you got Walker Howard. I mean, they've got a quarterback room, and then they've got Austin Simmons, that Gator fans understand. Quinshon Judkins was there. My merciful heavens, he's only a sophomore, ran for 1,500 yards last year. As Shane has told us in the past, Lane runs a lot more than people think he does.
Yeah.
He doesn't throw it ever down, right, Shane?
Yeah.
And when you've got running backs like Judkins, you've got to be able to use them at that point, too. Now, they did have a defensive tackle, Xavier Harris, who was charged with DUI traffic violations last weekend, so they'll deal with that as it goes along, and hopefully he can get his life together with that. But yes, Lane was Lane and always entertaining.
Yes, indeed. South Carolina, another team that people think are going to make that move this year. I do not see it at all. I do like Shane Beamer a lot. What can you tell us about the Gamecocks?
Shane Beamer is incredibly impressive at the podium. I mean, to just be as young a coach as he is, I'm sure he gets some of that from his dad in his days at Virginia Tech. The main thing I want to mention here is Dak Joyner is a guy who's done a little bit of everything. He's been a quarterback. He's been a wide receiver. Well, now he's up to 229, and he's a running back. So, and they need a guy like that. Now, this is something that a couple things I want to mention here. South Carolina has led the SEC 2 years in a row. As Beamer said, we've been last in the league in turnovers. Boy, that's got to change, doesn't it, Shane? So that 38 new players, hoping that Spencer Rattler is going to be more consistent. They realize that. Now, they're number one in turnovers on offense, but the defense is number two in takeaways. They did add Travian Robertson to the defensive staff. They're very excited about that. They're an experienced team, 21 players that will be graduates when they kick off against North Carolina. So that should help them, hopefully. So that's your update on South Carolina.
All right, the Tennessee Vols. Another team I think is going to take a step backwards. I could be wrong, but what Josh Heupel have to say?
They opened the season on Thursday night in Nashville. So there was a lot said about Tennessee being in Nashville. Josh Heupel did fine from the podium. A lot of Joe Milton III talk, as you can imagine. They're glad to get past the sanctions, although they lost a lot of scholarships in that NCAA situation, which is going to hurt them somewhere down the line. Joe Milton is 6'5", 242, just to let folks know how big Milton is. And look, to me, the big thing for them is going to be their defense. Now, they do have Amari Thomas coming back, could go into the draft, did not. So they think their defense is going to be better. And Shane, I think we're kind of in lockstep about this. Do I think they'll be second? Probably, but I think they go just as far as their defense allows them to go.
Yeah, Brent, it's surprised. You're going to be surprised, but I think Florida's going to be second in the East this year. Texas A&M, if anybody's going to give over play calling duties to a guy, this is the guy to do it because he's one of the best to ever call plays in college football. A&M, yeah. What'd you get out of A&M?
Well, that's the big thing is the transition to Bobby Petrino. And I mean, everybody was in lockstep, again, to use that term, that is working out well. This is an interesting stat here. A&M is 27-0, 16-0 in the SEC when they score more than 30 points. When they're under 30, under Jimbo, they're 11-22. How about that, Shane? A&M's defense has only allowed 30-plus points in 13 games in 5 years. That's pretty good. They've had some trouble with some of their freshmen who have left, and not only did those freshmen leave, they went to another school, and they've left that school. 7 of them have. So they have not evaluated well. Some of the beat writers admitted this along that line. So just to keep that in mind, that was the main thing about A&M, frankly. Not a whole lot said about the Miami game. That surprised me a little bit, because it is it's a huge game all the way around. So I know we're short on time, but I think we did a pretty good job on running through just about all the SEC teams.
Yes, we did, Brent, and we appreciate all your time. I know you're extremely fatigued from your long trip in Nashville, and I'm sure you were out at the juke joints on Broadway all night long. And we will talk to you next week, and have a great weekend, my man.
Yeah, I stayed off Mechanical Bulls just for you. So always enjoy it, Shane, and we will continue next week.
All right. That's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter, joining us on the Titan More Hotline. We're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll be joined by Katie Turner, Assistant Athletic Director of Recruiting Strategy at the University of Florida. We'll be talking to her about the great job that she and her entire crew are doing recruiting athletes for the Gators. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi there, this is Head Ball Coach Steve Spurrier, and I'm here with my wife Jerry and our good friend Sherry Houston, the Executive Director of the Ronald McDonald House Charities of North Central Florida. We're thrilled to announce that the 2-year anniversary of our restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, is coming up on August 14th. Last year, we had so much fun celebrating with everybody that we're doing it bigger and better this year. We're hosting a special dinner and celebration that will include a chef's choice of premium buffet or your favorite Spurrier Gridiron Grill menu, including a filet mignon carving station, shrimp and grits, short rib risotto, wonderful seafood options, and many dessert options also.
Like my famous chocolate chip cookies.
Proceeds being donated to the local Ronald McDonald House.
Thrilled to once again partner with Coach Jerry and the Spurrier Gridiron team to raise funds for the Ronald McDonald House, benefiting families and children experiencing medical emergencies.
Spurrier's Gridiron Grill will be donating 11% of all of our money from food and 66% of drink sales to the Ronald McDonald House.
Go to spurriers.com right now and reserve a ticket before they sell out.
We'll have wonderful food, special guests, and a limited edition of the second year anniversary collector's coins, as well as prizes like a dinner with me and Jerry. We couldn't have become one of the busiest and most successful restaurants in the Southeast without your support. So we want to celebrate with the most important people of our team, and that's you.
I want to celebrate with some of those cookies. Do you have any of those?
Sure do. Right here for you.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Points, where the Gators go to celebrate, with premium brands like Visor's Rooftop, Bass Pro Shops, Dave & Buster's, Fat Tuesday, Starbucks, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. The hottest restaurant in Florida in the heart of Gator Nation, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We're going to go back to the Titan MR hotline, and we're going to be joined by the Assistant Athletic Director of Football Recruiting Strategy, whatever the hell that means. It sounds very important. Katie Turner, welcome to the program. We appreciate your time. How are you?
Hey, Shane, I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing well. I got a bunch of questions here. People have been waiting for you on this program, so we're going to fire at you here on the Facebook Live brought to you by Meldon Law. Somebody on here wants to know, where was it? Here it is, Chris. He wants to know, Katie, what brought you to UF after being at Georgia and Alabama?
Coach Napier, for sure. He just has a vision, and I just love his leadership style. So when I was a student at Alabama, Coach Napier was our wide receivers coach. So I was obviously familiar with him there. And, he saw the blueprint of Nick Saban, and we were there during like all those assistant coaches that are now head coaches. I was really fortunate to be there during that era, and worked with him at UL for 2 years. And I just think we did it at a much smaller scale, but nonetheless, like we had to turn over a team in year one and really build a roster and go from there. And so it was just an exciting endeavor to work with him again. And I'm up for a challenge. So it was an exciting time. Like I was excited for a challenge of, turning over a roster and kind of rebuilding a program.
Yeah. My question for you is, I'm from the state of Mississippi. Without giving away all your secrets, just kind of go through the process of how y'all recruit kids, especially kids from out of state.
Yes. So we really focus on our 5 core states. So obviously Florida is the top of that. And within Florida, we try to focus on like a 4-hour radius. So we focus on Florida first, and then we work outwards. So you've got Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, and then Florida's at 5th. So you focus on those 5 core states to start, and then we continue to like build outwards. So Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, and then of course just national players like California, New Jersey, kind of go on from there. So that's kind of how it starts to make sense. So I remember you coming to the building that day, and you were like, I was showing you all the different colors and everything on the board. So we do try to identify it as well by that. Like they're a certain color if they're like within our 4-hour radius, or if they're in one of our 5 core states, and then if they're not, so it's just you've got to have a process and an evaluation because there's so many players. So it's just like, this is our starting point. So I don't want anyone to think like, oh, we're not looking at California, we're not looking at Texas. It's just, you've got to start somewhere. So start from within and then work outwards.
I've told people for years, for the last 15 years, that the not having a football facility was killing us. So year one, you pretty much recruited without one. Now you had drawings and cranes and stuff to show kids, but how big of a deal was it when y'all moved into the Hevener Center when it came to recruiting?
It was such a game changer. I agree. I think that it's just hard. Oh, I just minimized my screen. I think it's just hard to recruit against other Power 5 programs when they have seen the other products and then they come to our product. So I think that just like it's a comparison game in the recruits' minds, and they're young and impressionable, and they go to a place that has all the glitz and glam and all the bells and whistles. And it was just, I think it's really hard to compete against. So now that we have it, it is such a game changer. I mean, it's so modern, it's bright, it's beautiful. It has all the bells and whistles. And it's just so efficient from a player's experience. Like just, I think that was the problem with the old building. It was just very inefficient of like the up and down and everything. And so just to be in the hub of like the nutrition, the athletic training, the weight room, everything right there, practice fields, everything. So it's been a game changer. We've received, thousands of compliments, everyone, when they come in the building, they're like, this is awesome. It's beautiful. So, it doesn't hurt that we have like a pool. It's like a cherry on top.
Yeah, it's definitely a game changer. Andy's question for you was, let me find it here. He says, what do you think the top 3 things recruits look for when they commit to the University of Florida?
I would say development for sure. I think that I think that in this new era of NIL, everyone wants to believe like, oh, they're like, it's NIL and it's the money. But honest to God, like these kids, they tell us all the time, they just want to be developed. Like they want to go somewhere that is going to get them to the NFL, and to the next level. Like they're competitors, and we want guys that are competitors and that want to keep mastering their craft. So I would say they're looking for development. I think that we've got a tremendous like coaching staff and assistant coaches who, like you think of Coach Raymond and all the DBs that he's produced. So there's just a lot of coaches like that on our staff where their pedigree kind of speaks for themselves. I mean, having Billy G back has been awesome. Development for sure. Academics are like huge. The fact that we're a top 5 public university is so it's such a selling point, especially for parents. Like parents are super impressed with that. And when we bring them to the Hawkins Academic Center, that's our student athlete academic center. So it's just for student athletes. It's 3 stories. Same thing, was just built like 5 years ago. It's modern. It's gorgeous. Like parents are blown away. And I have been all these other places. I've got to say like ours is the best that I've ever seen. So yeah, I would say development, academics. I think a few of them are like excited about chances to play early, depth chart, just ability to win. I mean, we can win here. Like they want to know that we can win. So I think a lot of guys are excited and they're joining the boat because they're like, they want to be a part of a class that, hey, let's turn around. Let's get Florida back where they used to be. So
Buck has a question on Facebook brought to you by Melton Law. He says he'd like to know the valuation process of a kid. So like, I kind of know a little bit about it, but tell them about all the people that are working, watching tape of kids, how many people you have. And then Billy kind of, I mean, not just Billy, but the staff kind of has, I don't want to call it measurables, but if you're a 6-foot center, they ain't even gonna look at you. You got to fit the criteria, right?
You're right. Yes. So, so we have a staff. So Jacob LaFrance, he's our director of player personnel, and then he has a staff below him. So he's got, Joe Hamilton, who works defense, Nick McDonald on offense. And then they have about 5 students each, and that's for like each position. So you've got like a student who's cutting up film on the DBs. You've got a student who's cutting up film on D line, a student that's cutting up film, so on and so forth. Right. So, what we do is look through all of the rosters. We look through all of the film. Huddle, makes it super easy because all their film is uploaded to Huddle. And then all we have to do is go in and, you clip up all of their games, you clip up highlights. So they're working on that. So that's kind of like the beginning stages of the evaluation process, is really looking through all of the rosters in the state of Florida and finding those players. And then in looking through, like, we will look through different rankings, like, okay, who do they have listed as the class of 2025 top 250 players? Like, who do they have ranked as it? And look through that stuff as well. So it's just using your resources to like begin just the basis of evaluation. And then from there, like you said, the criteria, if it matches criteria, height, weight, and they just look like a good player, they could play at Florida, it gets passed on. So from the recruiting personnel department, it then goes to the area coach. From the area coach, it goes to the position coach, from the position coach to the coordinator, and then from the coordinator to the head coach, which the head coach doesn't always evaluate. So I think that it's pretty unique. Like Coach Napier watches every single recruit, and that's offense and defense. So it's really neat. And then I think it's provided like just a much more cohesive recruiting strategy from just a full staff strategy, because it's not like you're just trying to sign your position. It's you're all in it together. And I think it's allowed for us to be able to really be going after the best players, if that makes sense. The best players available. Like once we've got, 2 running backs signed, or we've got, our quota for whatever we're taking that year, let's start looking at the best player available now. So that's kind of, I hope that helps answer his question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very in-depth process. The Gators wouldn't recruit me nowadays. I was 6'2", 165 pounds when I signed my scholarship. Robert on the Titan MR text line, this is a good question here. He says, are you going to have any input into the renovations to help out the recruits on game day?
I think so. I hope so. I would love to. I think that, I've been able to see a pretty good product. No, I hope so. And I think that they will. Our administration's been awesome. I definitely have been like putting the pieces in play though, of like, hey, when that gets started, can I give a few ideas? Because it definitely is like, that's, I think, the last piece of the puzzle for sure. I think that we've got the administration's on board, the facilities are getting there, like the facility, like our football facility standalone, like that's there. You've got the academics, campus, Gainesville, like there's really everything. I think the last piece just is that game day experience. So once we nail that, like we'll be unstoppable.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the game day back in my day, they had the recruits were still down on the where they are now on the little
really
Pop Warner benches. And
yes. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And they had these girls called Gator Getters. Have you heard about the Gator Getters?
Yes.
They need to go back to that. It was great. I mean, the recruits loved it, and I still keep in touch with some of the girls that worked as Gator Getters. They love their university because it's not an easy job at all. Silverback Concrete is a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that build commercial structures with unrivaled quality. Silverback Concrete, you stand on it, we stand by it. A few more minutes with Katie Turner from Florida Gators Recruiting. She's the Assistant Athletic Director of Recruiting Strategy. All right, I got a question for you. When a bunch of people text, they want to know give me what one day in the life of Katie Turner in that football office is like.
Okay, hectic. A lot of fun, a lot of moving parts. I can literally walk you through it. You want me to just go ahead?
Well, I think they kind of want to know more like your hours. Like, I mean, does Katie ever get to sleep? Do you sleep more than Coach Napier or less?
I don't know. He's definitely like a morning person. So like he for sure will wake up like much earlier than me, but I'm a night owl. So like I stay up really late. So yeah, so it's kind of funny. We probably sleep about the same amount of hours, I would say. But we get in there. We have 7:45 staff every morning, so we get in there for that, and then from there it's just go go go. Like if it's like, for instance, I'll give an example from this spring. This spring is the busiest time for recruiting. Like obviously we recruit all year round, but because it's the prospects off season, they're able to come to us like all the time, and their spring ball hasn't started usually by the time our spring ball starts. So it just allows for like a lot of 7-on-7 teams to stop by, a lot of high school teams, a lot of just one-off prospects, and the junior days and all this stuff, right? So I mean, every single day we had a prospect in the building during like the spring recruiting period. So it was nonstop. It's just rinse and repeat for like 45 days straight. And that I would say is honestly the most grueling time of year, hands down. So you go in for staff meetings, and then every morning we have like a list of who's coming on campus today, you know, try to provide a preview of like who's coming during the week, like who we've got lined up for the rest of the week coming. And then from there, it's just like giving tours all day. And then honestly, I don't like actually start my other work until the prospects leave. So it's usually like a late night. So, because then, you know, there's other stuff like I've got to do, you know, my emails, budget stuff. You've got to plan, get, you know, everything in place for events and stuff like that. Right. So yeah, it's definitely, it's hectic. It's hectic for sure, but it's fun. But that I would say is the biggest grind. That, and then we get a little bit of a break in May. Like I say break, it's just, that's now become like transfer portal actually. So it's weird. So that's not necessarily a break anymore, I guess, but more slower, it slows down and then it ramps back up for June official visits now. But yeah.
We got a text on the Titan More text line from Sharon in Savannah, Georgia. She wants to know if a kid commits elsewhere that the Gators are recruiting, how much do y'all stay in touch with that player? And is this how the flips occur?
Yeah. Okay. When a kid that we've been recruiting commits elsewhere, I'll be the first to say, like, I am just devastated.
Pissed off. You're pissed off.
I don't even get even mad. I just am so disappointed. So I will be the first to say, like, yeah, it's hilarious actually, because I've said this before. I'm like, I've got to stop like control my emotions, but I just get so, not you take it personally, but like you do get attached to like the people and the families and the relationships, you know, so just anyway, but then you kind of let that time simmer down, I think a little bit. And there's ones that, you know, yeah, you just kind of keep up the relationship. It's not like we're texting them like the day, like after they commit. Like I said, you just kind of let some time simmer down. But yeah, definitely keep the relationships alive. And hey, like we'll respect it if a guy's like, no, seriously, like I'm committed, like I'm not doing anything, I'm not gonna flip or anything like that. Like you got to respect that. So it's a fine line. Like you definitely want to respect the process and respect the kid and his family. But if there's guys that are like, I'm committed, but like I want to continue our relationship, I want to keep talking with you, then that's kind of your like, okay, you know, so kind of keep that alive. So yeah, to answer the question, you can still keep in communication with them, which is nice. But yeah, there's been some days where man, it's tough.
Right. A couple more questions here and we'll let you get out of here. This has been great. People love this. This is from George on the Titan More text line. He wants to know how far in advance is the recruiting department looking at kids? Like, are they looking at them while they're 7th and 8th graders? Let everybody know how they're doing that.
Yeah. So it's actually starting, I would say, now down to their about freshman year. So when we first got here as a staff, we were behind. So like we got here in December of 2021. So we had to finish that class of 2022. Then we were behind on 2023. You know, so I feel like with class of 2024, we actually kind of had like a pretty good, just like handling all the relationships with that. And so now we've been able to really start like getting more ahead. So 2025s are rising juniors, and then 2026s are rising sophomores, which is insane. And then now the freshmen will be class of 2027, which is just wild. But yeah, so I would say you definitely kind of try to start by their like freshman year and then just start tracking them in a perfect world. So I think we were just kind of behind the first year, but you know, we're definitely picking up speed and now we're able to start getting ahead on that. So you've got your 2025s right now, like we've got our no-brainers, and we've been starting to offer some of those, which is exciting and cool, but hopefully we'll start really getting a little bit earlier in our process. The next year, I would say we'll be able to ramp that up, but yeah, about freshman year.
Yeah. All right. Jean on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon, says, love Katie's energy. How can Gator fans help her recruiting efforts via Gator Victorious is his question. Is that how fans out there can help recruiting?
Oh, so yeah, Florida Victorious. So that is the the like NIL collective, it's no longer Gator Collective. It's now like Florida Victorious. And they've been doing a great job. So yeah, you can donate to that group. And then, that group has been doing a great job, and it's for all student athletes. They've been doing a great job of being able to provide opportunities for our current guys on the roster, and just, be able to really provide them with like some awesome opportunities. So I think it's definitely helpful with that. I think that the one thing, like, the Florida fans are amazing. It's like the craziest like I've ever seen. It's just the commitment and just passion that Florida fans have is honestly unmatched. Like someone told me it when I was taking this job, and I'm like, I've seen some pretty crazy fan base. Like I've seen some pretty like devoted fan bases, and I was blown away. So I just think continuing to just be like, some awesome fans. Don't get upset when, kids don't commit to your school, or if they flip on us or whatever. It's at the end of the day, like, you can't get mad at someone doing.
You can't get them all. You can't have them all. You can only have.
We're gonna lose way more than we get, which is like, you just got to be resilient. Like I get really down, but then you've got to be able to snap out of it and get right back up. So it's just a game of resilience.
You're like a quarterback when he throws an interception.
Yeah,
got to have short-term memory.
Exactly. Next play. Yeah.
Next play. All right. Last thing, Billy Napier, to me, gosh, he's worked for Saban. He worked for Dabo. The dude he is so meticulous at everything he does and how he speaks to people. Just real briefly, tell people what it's like to work for Billy Napier.
So he is the man with the plan. Yes, he will go into staff meetings and he will go through like, a list of everything, like the amount of things that he has to think about. It's so impressive and honestly inspiring to just sit there for a staff meeting and watch him as he goes and he talks to just so many different people in the room and so many different facets of the organization that like he's got to focus on, because he really is the CEO of our organization. So very meticulous. I think that, if you work for Coach Napier, you've got to be like a self-starter in a way, because he trusts everyone in his organization. Like the amount of trust that he has for his employees it's one of like the greatest things to be an employee in there, to not be, it's not necessarily like you're getting your hand held or you're not being micromanaged. So you've got to be able to be self-starter, go-getter, proactive, but making sure you're like kind of following along with like his plan, his vision. So I definitely do check-ins with him a bunch and just making sure that we're on the same page about like a lot of just like our recruiting dates and events and just strategy things. So just go-getter, meticulous, and then passionate about your role. I think that like he's very calm, but like that does not, like he's so passionate. So I think that like my energy, I'm like, but he's like just as passionate, he just doesn't show it all the time. Like he's just such a chill demeanor. Like he is who he is every single day, but like he's so driven and so passionate. And I think like he just wants his employees to match that. And then, I think the last thing about working for him is just, I just never want to disappoint him. Like he's not someone that's going to get necessarily mad. He's just going to get disappointed. And it's, I just never want to disappoint him. So I'm like always working to make sure we're getting better.
Well, you and your staff have done a phenomenal job. We have a million questions and comments, appreciating all your efforts.
Thank you.
How the dinners at Spurrier's been for these young boys that don't really know about Gator football? They enjoying it?
They have been loving it. Yes, we have had a blast there. So no, it's been awesome. And you get to like walk in and just the literal history that you get to see, with the museum and all the rings and the jerseys. And it's the perfect touch for these official visit weekends. It's been a home run for sure. And I mean, the vibe there is obviously just like so great. Celebration Point, such a cool area. So yeah, it's been awesome. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Well, you've been awesome, and we appreciate you taking the time. I know you're very, very busy, but we appreciate it. And
Thank you.
we're looking forward to football. Thank you, Katie.
Same. All right. Thank you, Shannon. I'll talk to you later.
All right. That's Katie Turner. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. We appreciate her taking the time, and Brent Beaird. Hope you guys enjoyed today's program. Give her a follow on Twitter. She does a tremendous job. And I'm telling you, they're turning the corner. They're going to have a hell of a year. Hope you enjoy your weekend, folks. We'll recap the British Open on Monday. Take care.